Ever feel like when you hear people talking about finance, it's like this whole other language?
Yeah,
Like you need a decoder ring just to understand what's going on,
right.
especially with all this AI stuff everyone's talking on. Like,
Yeah.
am I supposed to trust a robot with my retirement fund?
Well, that's what we're diving into today, trying to make sense of this whole AI and finance thing.
Exactly. We've got these reports from like the who's who of the financial world, the CFTC, the IMF, even the UK Investment Association.
Serious
And they're
players.
all talking about AI like it's the future of, well, everything.
It's not just about some algorithm picking stocks anymore. It really does touch almost every part of our financial lives.
Okay, so maybe not my retirement fund yet, but my morning coffee.
Think about it. AI is already analyzing things like global weather patterns to see how they'll affect coffee bean yields.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the whole shipping side of things. AI's optimizing routes, predicting delays, you name it.
Wow, so it's all connected.
Exactly. It's like this whole interconnected web of, well, data, really. And AI is the thing that makes sense of it all.
Okay, I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache just thinking about it. So
Yeah.
before we go any further, let's back up for a second. What exactly are we even talking about when we say AI?
Right, because it gets thrown around a lot these days.
Like, is it some super intelligent computer that's going to take over Wall Street?
Well, not quite.
Hmm.
The OECD defines it as any machine-based system that can basically process information and then use that information to do something,
Hmm.
like make a prediction, give a recommendation, or even take some kind of action.
Okay, that's still pretty broad.
It is. It's not just one thing, more like a whole spectrum.
A spectrum of what?
Well, you've got your basic rule-based systems, like if this happens in the market, then do that. Kind of like setting up automatic trades based on certain conditions.
Okay.
Then you move into machine learning. That's where things get a little more complex. Well, imagine instead of you having to read through like mountains of financial reports, you've got an AI that can do it for you. And not just read it, but actually understand it and find the important stuff.
So like having a superpowered research assistant.
Exactly. And it can do it way faster and arguably more accurately than any human could.
That's both impressive and a little scary.
Right. And then we take it a step further with deep learning. That's like machine learning on steroids.
Okay, now you got my attention. Deep learning. What's that all about?
So deep learning is where AI starts to recognize these really complex patterns, making connections that humans might miss completely.
So it's not just crunching numbers, it's actually understanding the data on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting because it opens up all these possibilities for how AI can be used in finance.
Okay, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second. How does all this actually impact me, the average person who maybe checks their stock app once a week, if that?
Let's say you're thinking about investing in a company. In the past, you might have spent hours researching the company, trying to understand its market, making sure you're not missing anything important.
Yeah, sounds kind of like a drag, to be honest.
Right. With AI, you could have a robo-advisor that does all that for you. It analyzes global trends, looks at consumer sentiment, even factors in things like potential regulatory changes all in seconds.
Wow. So basically, it's like having a personal financial expert in my pocket.
In a way, yeah. And it's not just about picking stocks. AI can monitor your accounts for fraud, help you budget better, the list goes on. It's like having a super-powered financial assistant working behind the scenes.
Okay, I have to admit, that part actually sounds pretty great.
It does have a lot of potential.
But I've also seen enough sci-fi movies to know that with great power comes the potential for things to go very, very wrong.
You're not wrong to be cautious.
Like, what about those deep fakes everyone's talking about? Those videos that look so real but are actually made by AI?
Exactly. Now imagine that same technology used in the financial world.
Oh, okay, now that's a little unnerving.
Right. Someone could use AI to manipulate markets, spread misinformation, even steal your identity to access your accounts.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
My online banking password suddenly doesn't feel so secure anymore.
And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive. We need to understand both the amazing potential of AI in finance and the very real risks that come with it.
It's not just about AI on Wall Street. It's about AI potentially impacting our everyday financial lives in ways we can't even imagine yet.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so important to be having this conversation now.
All right, so let's break it down a little further. Our sources highlight a few different types of AI we should be aware of. We've got machine learning, deep learning, and then this other one,
Yeah.
generative AI. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It kind of is.
So what's the deal with generative AI? Is that where computers start writing poetry and composing symphonies?
It's not that far off,
So
actually.
generative AI, it's like AI on another level or something.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about AI actually creating things, generating new content.
Okay, so we're talking like AI artists, AI musicians.
In a way, it can be that creative stuff, but also think like uh, writing articles, generating code for new software.
Whoa. And this is all happening now.
It is still early stages, but it's developing crazy fast.
And how does this generative AI play into finance? That's the part I'm still wrapping my head around.
Imagine this. Remember that example of researching a company to invest in?
Yeah. Tons of reports, articles, trying to get the full picture.
Right now, imagine instead of you sifting through all that, generative AI could analyze it all for you.
Okay. But like we were saying earlier, regular AI can kind of do that already, right?
True. But generative AI takes it up a notch. It doesn't just find the important facts.
What else does it do?
It can analyze the tone of all that information.
The tone. You mean like, is the article positive or negative about the company?
Exactly. It can read between the lines, basically.
Yeah.
Get a sense of the sentiment, the overall vibe.
And so it's like having an AI that can tell if a company's actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. It's like having a sixth sense for investments, almost.
Okay, that's kind of mind-blowing. But also a little, I don't know, unnerving. Like, how do we even begin to regulate that? If AI can manipulate markets based on, like, vibes?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something regulators are really grappling with right now.
Because it's not just about preventing the AI from doing something illegal, right? It's about understanding how it even thinks, how it makes decisions.
You got it. That's that black box problem we were talking about earlier.
Right. Because with these really complex AI systems, even the people who build them might not fully understand how they work.
It's true. And that lack of transparency, that's what keeps regulators up at night.
So we've got AI that could potentially manipulate markets,
Mm.
AI that makes decisions we don't fully understand. It's a lot.
It is. And we haven't even touched on the potential for job displacement yet. That's a whole other conversation.
Okay, so maybe we should talk about that. Because if AI can do all this amazing stuff, what does that mean for the humans who work in finance? Are we all out of a job?
Well, it's not that simple. Let's dig into that a bit more. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
All right, hit me with it. What do we need to know about AI and the future of jobs in finance? So where do we go from here? I mean, we've talked about all this potential for AI to, like, revolutionize finance,
Yeah.
but also, potentially crash the whole system.
Right.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. It's this balancing act.
Exactly. How do we harness the power of AI without letting it, like, run off the rails?
That's the question, isn't it? And all of our sources seem to agree on one thing. We need more regulation.
Okay, more regulation makes sense.
But it's not just about slapping some rules on the tech companies and calling it a day.
It's got to be smarter than that. Yeah.
Exactly. The CFTC report, they actually talk about these things called circuit breakers.
Circuit breakers, like for the whole market.
Yeah, so imagine if the market starts going haywire, like some AI trading algorithm's gone rogue or something.
Okay, scary, but go on.
These circuit breakers could kick in, temporarily halt trading, give everyone a chance to, catch their breath and figure out what's going on.
So like a safety net to prevent a full-blown AI-induced market crash.
Exactly. And the UK Investment Association report, they're really focused on the ethical side of things.
Which is huge, right? Because it's not enough to just have rules. Those rules need to be grounded in some kind of moral framework.
Right. And one of their big points is the need for more diversity in the teams that are actually building these AI systems.
That makes sense because if it's just like a bunch of guys in Silicon Valley coding up these algorithms,
Well, yeah, then the AI is going to reflect their biases, their blind spots.
and that could lead to some really unfair or even discriminatory outcomes.
Exactly. It's like they say, garbage in, garbage out, right?
So it all comes back to the humans behind the curtain, so to speak.
Always does, yeah.
So what can the average person do? I mean, I'm not a coder. I don't work at the CFTC.
Right.
How do I make sure my money is safe in this brave new world of AI finance?
Well, first of all, don't panic.
Easy for you to say.
I know. But seriously, this is all still unfolding, and there are people working hard to make sure AI is used responsibly.
Okay, that's reassuring at least.
But your role is important too. You have a voice, you can ask questions, demand transparency.
Like from my bank, my financial advisor.
Exactly. Find out how they're using AI, what safeguards they have in place. Don't be afraid to get a little bit, annoying.
Annoying in the name of financial security.
Exactly.
Okay, I can do that. So basically, stay informed, stay engaged, and don't be afraid to speak up.
You got it.
It's our financial future we're talking about here, after all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's about all the time we have for this deep dive into AI and financial markets.
Time flew by.
It always does when we're talking about, the potential robot apocalypse.
Right. But hey, at least we're prepared now, right?
That's the hope, anyway. But seriously, thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Mm.
Always a pleasure picking your brain.
Always a pleasure to be here.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check back next time for another deep dive into the world of, well, whatever we uncover next.
The future awaits.
That it does. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the other side.